takes a swipe at Democrats in the race for the White House. He held a news conference a little while ago to announce that at a January event, he raised $5.6 million for veterans. Besides lashing out at reporters, he also ridiculed the Democrats over their drawn-out primary season.
We have no idea what's going to happen on the Democrat side, but they're certainly having difficulty. I don't like to see people having difficulty, but anybody has to have it. Let it be them.
All right, joining us now from Burlington, Vermont is Jane Sanders. She's the wife of Senator Bernie Sanders. Jane, thanks very much for joining us.
Good to be here, Wolf.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch Trump's news conference, but if you did, what's your reaction to what he said about the news media, his criticism of the Democrats?
I didn't really watch it. I saw it in passing, little bits and pieces. You know, I mean, I think that he's used the news media quite effectively by acting, some would say inappropriately, or just in a very annoyed way. He seems to get coverage by being the way he is, so I guess it's working for him. I don't think it's working for the American people. It's
worked so far for him. He said today he's going to continue that same strategy going forward. You must be disappointed, though, that Jerry Brown, the governor of California, endorsed Hillary Clinton today, saying this, quote, "This is no time for Democrats to keep fighting each other. The general election has already begun. Hillary Clinton, with her long experience, especially as Secretary of State, has a firm grasp of the issues and will be prepared to lead our country on day one next January. I want to be sure that it is Hillary Clinton who takes the oath of office, not Donald Trump." What was your reaction to Jerry Brown's endorsement?
Well, not surprising. I mean, throughout the country, Bernie has had to take on the governors, the senators, the congressmen, the Democratic establishment in each race. He's won 20 states, and there's a number of them up this coming week, that I think he'll win as well. And California may very well be one of them. And that might be why he's weighing in now on behalf of the Democratic establishment. Bernie is going to be quite ready as well, and one of the things that is surprising, maybe I shouldn't say surprising, but it's because it's been consistent. Everybody has said since the day that he announced that he was running until today that he doesn't have a chance. Whether he won a string of 8 in a row or 5 in a row, it didn't matter. It was always the second.
Hi there, I'm Brooke Baldwin. Thank you so much for being with me on this Tuesday. You're watching CNN. We begin with a rather extraordinary day on the campaign trail. The headline should have been, Donald Trump finally accounts for nearly $6 million he raised for dozens of veterans groups. Boom, done. The who, the what, the how answered. But instead, the headline became Donald Trump unleashing on the media, in perhaps the most heated news conference he has had since launching his campaign a year ago. For months and months, journalists, including us here at CNN, did not question the motivation behind Trump's fundraiser, the one he held instead of attending that primary debate. We asked simple questions about the money trail. But instead of simply explaining those details today, Mr. Trump turned the announcement into a storm of insults, name-calling, and questioning the role of a free press.
I'm the only one in the world who could raise almost $6 million for the veterans, have uniform applause by the veterans groups, and end up being criticized by the press.
Follow up on that. You keep calling us the dishonest press, the disgusting press.
Generally speaking, that's 100% true. Go ahead.
I disagree with that, sir.
But you know what? When I raise money, excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty. Oh, I'm totally accountable, but I didn't want to have credit for it. Now, actually, though, what I got was worse than credit because they were questioning me.
But what you're doing is you're answering the questions now that we had back then. It was just a question.
Right, so
is a question an
here's
attack?
The story. Here's the story.
Is a question an attack?
I think, and I've been dealing with the press a long time, I think the political press is among the most dishonest people that I've ever met. I have to tell you that. I wanted to make this out of the goodness of my heart. I didn't want to do this where the press is all involved. And all of a sudden, everybody's going, where did it go? Who did it go to? Then we said who it went to. Then we said, how much was it? I'm not looking for credit. But what I don't want is when I raise millions of dollars, have people say, like this sleazy guy right over here from ABC. He's a sleaze in my book. You're a sleaze because you know the facts, and you know the facts well. Go ahead.
Is this what it's going to be like covering you if you're president?
Okay, yeah, it is going to be like this, David. If the press writes false stories, I'm going to continue to attack the press. Look, I find the press to be extremely dishonest. I may be right, I may be wrong, but that's who I am. And you think I'm going to change? I'm not changing.
Let me bring in my colleague, who you saw at the top of the clip, Mr. Jim Acosta, our CNN senior White House correspondent, who had a front row seat to that today. Jim, you say Trump is always scathing of the media. You tweet about it, but you say today this felt different. Why?
Well, you know, it was rather pointed, and I think what you saw happen inside Trump Tower behind me a couple of hours ago and unfold over the course of, 60 minutes was basically Donald Trump not being very comfortable answering these questions about where this money was going to these veterans groups, and he was just visibly angry, and that anger boiled over, and it boiled over in a way that we've sort of seen before. We've seen him out on the campaign trail. Brooke, you've carried many of his rallies live during your show. You know, he goes after the news media, the disgusting news media, the dishonest news media. And so I sort of felt like it was appropriate there to ask him, well, we're just sort of asking these questions here. Where is this money coming from? Where is it going? And because of those questions, we're not getting at a of where that money is going. And as you said at the top of this should have been a day where Donald Trump talked about the causes for these veterans groups that he's raising money for. A lot of very good, worthwhile there helping our nation's veterans, but it sort of was overshadowed by this, you know, Donald Trump going after the news media display that we saw take place over the course of 60 minutes. And as you heard there at the very end of that news conference, he said this is how White House press briefings are going to play out, that he is going to he's going to engage with the press, and if he feels like they're doing bad stories, negative stories on them, he's going to go after them. But keep in mind, Brooke, this all started back in January when he skipped that Republican debate in order to hold this event. And he said at that event, we've raised $6 million. So all the news media has been doing over the last several months is ask, where is that money coming from? Where is it going? And in the last couple of weeks, his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, said, well, it's about $4.5 billion, $5 billion. And then Donald Trump contradicted his campaign manager and said it's around $5 billion. And so these are just questions that are being asked, questions that are being raised. But this is very much what Donald Trump does when he goes after his critics. He hits them hard. He did it against his GOP rivals. He does it against the press. He's going to do it in this upcoming general election battle against Hillary Clinton. This is very much tactical as much as it was emotional.
Jim Acosta with the reporting, and I give you props for not missing a beat with some screaming there behind you on a busy Fifth Avenue. Jim Acosta, thank you so much here in New York. Let's broaden out the discussion and bring in my panel. I have Dylan Byers standing by, CNN senior media and politics reporter. I have Boris Epstein, Republican strategist and Trump surrogate, Trump supporter. David Fahrenthold, reporter for the Washington Post, and Mo Alathe, executive director at the Georgetown Institute of Politics and Public Service and former comms director for the DNC. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you. And David, let me just turn and begin with you, because we've been reading your Washington Post pieces. You have been, you know, for quite a while now, sort of holding Mr. Trump's feet to the fire when it comes specifically to this veterans fundraiser piece, right? So we'll get to the media bashing in just a second, but you know, very eloquently sort of outlined a number of questions you wanted answered. Today you were at the presser. Do you feel like you got those answers?
Partly. We wanted to know how much in total Trump had raised that night in January, and now we know, $5.6 million. It's less than the original $6, but more than what Corey Lewandowski had been telling us a couple of weeks ago.
Which is still a lot. Let's just pause and say, wow, that's still a lot of money.
It's a great deal of money, and for the folks that have gotten these donations, it's been a huge, life-changing donation.
Yeah.
So the point is not to say that Trump never gave money to veterans, but that he had not been sort of giving details about what had happened to the money he said he would personally give and the money he gathered from others to give away. So we know the total figure now. And so the question now is what took so long? And Trump talked a lot about vetting. You know, I had to vet these groups to make sure they were really worthwhile. And we're trying to dig in now to figure out how much vetting really went into selecting the news groups that got the money.
Okay, Boris, I'm coming to you in a minute.
Okay.
I'm coming to you in a minute because I'm watching you, watching your face. But Dylan, to you, let's just back up and also just mention that, you know, it was CNN, it was our investigations unit, it was Drew Griffin who really exposed the VA story on a national scale. It was January of 2014 when we broke it. And I know that, you know, Drew and David and others have been asking all the smart questions, as David just outlined. You know, still other questions remain here as it pertains to the vets and the vetting, et cetera. Again, it is amazing that $5.6 million has been raised, but the question still must be asked. And today, Mr. Trump, instead of really focusing on the causes and the veterans, railed on the media.
Well, right, and it's really incredible that he railed on the media on this topic because it's precisely the reporting that has been done by David and others to really press Donald Trump to address this issue and to address it publicly. And had that reporting not been done, had the media not done its job in that regard, we don't know if Donald Trump would have ever addressed this issue. We don't know how much money he might have raised for charity had the media not pressed him on this. And what he's doing here is he's coming back at the media and he is criticizing the media in large part to sort of make the story about Donald Trump versus the media once again, to draw attention away from the fact that he might not have raised this much money, to also draw attention away from something else that's going on today, which is, of course, the controversy over Trump University. Any day that Donald Trump can make the story Trump versus the media, that plays very well with his base, and it goes further to inoculate him against criticism and objective inquiry from the media. And you look at every reporter in that room today at that press conference, they were doing their jobs despite